So, let's talk about CAPS, the Common App Personal Statement. As most people say, this is one of the most important essays for your college admissions, and they're not wrong. A good personal statement can make or break an application, and I do think that my personal statement was one of the stronger pieces of my application. So today I'm going to be walking you through how I wrote it and my personal tips on how to write a good personal statement. So, number one. So the way I started was I wanted to figure out what I wanted my essay in general to be about. So I brainstormed ideas about, what made me who I am? What's the big thing that I spend my time on? What is something that defines who I am? And that can be like how you identify, what you do with your spare time, or your main extracurricular, or anything like that. For me, a big part of my life, and especially in high school, was clarinet and music. So I knew for sure that I wanted to write an essay that focused on performing and clarinet in general. So now that you've gotten the first part down, which is the content of the essay, the second step is figuring out how you want to present your essay. Because even if you have the most brilliant idea in the world and the most beautiful content, it doesn't matter unless you present it in a good way. And by a good way, I mean something interesting and memorable. See, if you present your essay in a boring and standard cliche way, then when the admissions officers read it, they're not going to remember who you are, and they just have a very low likelihood of liking you and accepting you as an applicant. Now, obviously, there's a lot of ways to present an essay interestingly, but from my personal experience and from what I've read and the way I wrote it, I think the most simple and straightforward way is to present it like it's a story. The way that I approached it was I thought of a childhood memory that was unique to me and that I could connect to the idea that I wanted to write about. If you've watched any of my videos before, especially the video where I talk about the essays that got me into Princeton, you'll know that I wrote about my pillow Fufu. I'm pretty sure that's relatively unique. I don't think anybody has a pillow named Fufu besides me, and I could find a way to connect that to clarinet and performing, which is how I started my essay and then wove it into the topic that I wanted to talk about, which was clarinet and performing. Now, obviously, you don't have to write about a pillow or a blanket or a bed or anything, but a lot of people talk about maybe their love for spicy food or a board game they play with their grandparents or even a nickname that they were given. So once you've done that, you kind of have the two main components down. You have the topic that you want to talk about and how you want to present it. So you have the general outline of your essay. So even though your topic might not be, super unique, you have your unique thing, your childhood story or anything you want to start your essay and hook your readers in. And then you can use that to present the topic at hand to overall make a complete essay. So the first 2 points are done, and that's the main outline of your essay. Now on to number 3, which is the body of the essay. And as the age-old adage goes, for college essays, show don't tell, and I'm sure you've heard of that many, many times. And the body of the essay is where that comes into play. You want to make sure that you explain how you do what you did, or explain how your answer makes sense, rather than just claiming that it does. So a good way to do that is to talk about how you've explored, your answer, or your topic, or your main idea throughout your life, and especially in high school. So for me personally, I talked about my experience with piano, clarinet, performing, youth orchestra, things like that, and how it connected to who I am as a person in not just orchestra, but in school and beyond. If, for example, you want to answer the question about how an activity makes you lose track of all time, don't just say, oh, well, robotics is fun, and so I joined the robotics club. Talk about maybe that one night when you found a YouTube video and you wanted to try something out, and so you spent all night building a robot, building a machine, when you had a math final the next day, and you completely forgot about the final because you were just so immersed in making the robot or making the machine, and maybe you did something with that maybe won you an award or something like that. So you see, that kind of connects to your extracurriculars, it connects to your interests, and it shows how you lost track of time, and not just saying that, I enjoyed it and it's fun. Or if you want to talk about a realization that sparked personal growth, don't just say that, something happened and it made you change in this way. Talk about how you've changed in that way, what you've done since you changed in that way, what you did before, and what you do now. So just in general, those are my 3 tips on writing the essay itself. So the first thing is the idea, which is kind of like the box of the essay. It's the outline, it's the general structure. And then you add the bow, or the wrapping of the paper, which is your story, your unique spin on it, how you're going to present this. And the third thing is the actual present, the things inside the box, which are basically going to actually sell your essay and truly answer the question. So kind of in general, that's my idea on how to approach this essay. but there's a lot of things that I can't cover in a short video because there's a lot of step-by-step processes that are very specific to each person, and I really can't cover that in a single video. But there's this company that recently launched an app called Usist that is really going to help you with your college application process. Well, one of the many things that makes Usist special is that they incorporate real advice from Ivy League students like me into their app. The tips that I've shared with you in today's video are from my perspective on what's worked for me, but I'm just one of the many of thousands of students who got into Ivy League schools this year, and Usist does a really great job of incorporating all of that into their app to help you write your application. So before they launched their app, they asked me about my insight on how to write a good college essay, and so I told them my advice on what I do, and they incorporated it into their app design here. Including such advice from me and other Ivy League students, they've done a really great job of helping you craft your personal statement and your supplemental essays for every top college, including Princeton. So I looked into this app myself, and I think it'll be a really great resource for students who either don't know where to start with their essays or really want like an in-depth tutorial on how to craft their essay. So once you choose your school, you can go in and there's a whole checklist of things you want to do for your personal statement. So there's tips from other students on how to like brainstorm ideas, and then you choose your structure of collage or chronicle. The way that I wrote my college essay was more of the collage structure. So if you go down that pathway on the app, then you're going to be able to see one of my tips on writing a personal statement. There's a lot of other great features on this app, but the one that I really wanted to share with you today is a section about writing your personal statement because that's what this video is about. So make sure you guys go check this out. The link's in my description, and I hope it really helps with your college application process. But anyways, I have a few more things I want to talk about, so back to the video. So those are my main ideas on how to like write the essay, but another really important part is to have people read it, right? If you're comfortable, of course. So by the time you finish writing your essay, you're gonna have stared at those 650 words at least a dozen times, right? You've gone through draft 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you know your essay by heart. You know exactly what you're trying to say, and so sometimes it really blurs your perspective on what you've written and how well it comes across. So basically what you want to do is you want to find somebody to share your essay with, maybe a friend if you feel comfortable, or a teacher if you feel comfortable, or your parents. And what you want to do is once they read it, I want you to ask them, one, what was the main idea of the essay? And number two, how would they characterize you in 15 words or less based on that essay alone? So for example, this is really kind of where the second point comes in, the present, the wrapping of the box, right? You want them to remember you as a certain type of person. So for me, I could either be the kid with fufu, the kid with a pillow, or the kid who has social anxiety but loves to perform, right? Some people, it might be the kid who loves spicy food but is allergic to it. Or maybe you're the kid who has the nickname that got made fun of but treasures it dearly. Or maybe you're a food connoisseur and everywhere you travel, you keep the receipt of your favorite meal at the place you travel. Maybe, I don't know. But you want something to be remembered by because, admissions officers need to fight for you, and the most important part of that is they have to remember you. Obviously, you want them to like you, but if you're just like the kid who plays clarinet, or the kid who does math competitions, or the kid who does Model UN, there's so many of those out there, and you want something unique to be remembered by. And you have to make sure that somebody who reads your essay for the first time can catch on to that, because admissions officers don't really have that much time to read your essay. So really like what their impression of you is based on like maybe 10, 12, 15 minutes, right? So once you give your essay to somebody, you want them to tell you who they think you are. If they answer it in the way that you're going for, then you know you're good. If not, then you need to think about how to restructure your essay into a way that can get them to really pinpoint you as a person. Because look, let's face it, 650 words is not a lot to get across your life story. If your reader can do that, then you'll know that your idea came across well and you've succeeded in presenting it well. Now, lastly, just a really overarching tip for writing this essay, I would say just don't try to overcomplicate it. Don't use fancy words. Don't use a thesaurus for lengthy words. You don't have to say grandiloquent if you just mean, lengthy or fancy. You can say words like that. They're not going to dock you for it. You're like 17, 18 years old. You don't need a PhD level vocabulary. 2, do not overcomplicate it or list out your achievements just to show that you have them. If you're in ICHO or IMO or some kind of like international Olympiad winner, that's great. That's going to get you far. But you don't need to put it in your essays because they see that on your activities, your honors, or whatever it is. And putting it in your essay just really brings it into a more formal sense, and sometimes it may come across as bragging, and it just makes the whole essay a lot less fun, in my opinion. This essay is really the biggest chance you have to show the AOs a different side of you, you know, not your honors, your activities, your SATs, your resume, or things like that. And you don't want to waste the precious space you have, you know, describing an achievement. So, but yeah, basically you don't want to waste any of your 650 words listing achievements because it wastes space and it's boring. Write in a way that gives detail and censor images without convoluting your ideas. It's a lot better to write an academically written paper interestingly than it is to write it like an academic paper, if that makes any sense. Did I say that right? It's better to write an academically written paper than an academic paper. That doesn't make sense, does it?
I don't know what you're trying to say.
Point is, write it like interestingly, but still academically, rather than trying to write it academically.
What does writing it academically mean?
Writing academically is like PhD paper. It's like you're trying to write like a research paper.
So what is writing academic?
Academically is like, if you write it interestingly, but academically, it's like, wow, it's a story, but not like Dr. Seuss. It's like interesting, but still like keep it like academic.
It's a smartly written good story.
A smartly written good story, as Wilbur says. Woo! Man's got an arm. But yeah, try to think of it as less of an essay and more of a story, and I think it'll turn out well.